Good morning, students. All of you, welcome to the class. In this class, I'm going to discuss about chemical thermodynamics. Chemical thermodynamics, it is a branch of thermodynamics which deals with the study of process involving chemical energies only. Thermodynamics is useful in predicting the feasibility of a process, and it is useful in predicting the yield of the product, and it is useful in deducing the important generalizations and their mathematical expressions like distribution law, phase rule, etc. But thermodynamics is having some limitations, like it deals with only macroscopic quantities but not with microscopic quantities. And by using the thermodynamics, we can predict the feasibility of the reaction, but we cannot predict the rate of reaction or the speed of reaction. The thermodynamics deals with initial and final states of reaction, and it does not deals with the path of reaction by which the reaction is going to happen. So these are the limitations of thermodynamics. The starting terminologies which are helpful to understand the thermodynamics are system and surroundings. System means anything which is taken to study about the heat changes of reaction. That is called as system. Except of the system, the remaining part of the universe is called as surroundings. So including system and surroundings, the total part is called as universe. Systems are classified into three types. One is open system, second one is closed system, third one is isolated system. In open system, between system and surroundings, this is the system, and this portion is taken as the surroundings. Between system and surroundings, heat is going to exchange as well as matter is going to exchange. Whereas in the closed system, here we are taking some closed chamber, here matter is there, some heat energy is also there. Only heat is going to exchange between system and surroundings, but not matter. And the third one is isolated system. Here isolated system is going to contain insulated wall. This is thermally insulated wall. So because of this thermal insulation, heat is not going to exchange, matter is not going to exchange. So neither heat nor matter exchanges. The system is called as isolated system. And the isolated system, here this wall is called as adiabatic wall. Why? Because means heat is not going to be taken out or taken inside of the system. So for the isolated systems, the walls are called as adiabatic walls. The state of any system depends upon mainly temperature, pressure, and volume. By changing any of these factors, the state of system is going to change. State of system means a solid state, liquid state, gaseous state. So the state of any system is depending upon the physical quantities like temperature, pressure, and volume. Hence, these are called as state variables. By changing any of these factors, we can change the state of system. That's why these are called as state variables. Of course, these are also called as state functions. Coming to the internal energy. See here, three examples I took here. First one is the ice, second one is the water, third one is the water vapors. This is considered as a water vapor. Suppose assuming that ice, water, and water vapors taken in the above diagrams have the same amount of water. There is no change in the mass, the same amount of water. For example, here 10 grams, here 10 grams, 10 grams, or 20 grams, any number of grams. So that is, we have to assume that if same amount of matter is taken in three different states, solid state, liquid state, and in the vapor state, solid is having more internal energy than liquids. Liquids are having more internal energy than vapors. So here the term is internal energy, that is a state function. If the state of matter is going to change, the internal energy of the system is also going to change. What is meant by internal energy? How can we understand the internal energy? Internal energy is the amount of energy possessed by the system is called as internal energy. So the internal energy is depending upon the physical state of the system. That's why we can say that internal energy is a state function. Coming to the work. What is meant by work? How can you write the mathematical form of work? W is equal to PdV. All of you know. Right. Coming to the work. Here I am taking an isolated system. Q is equal to 0, indicating this wall is the adiabatic wall. Means this wall is not going to allow exchange of heat from system to surroundings or from surroundings to system. So that's why this system is considered as a adiabatic system, which does not permits the transfer of heat through its boundary. This is called as boundary. This boundary is called as adiabatic wall. Okay. So in this adiabatic system, when work is going to happen, can you guess whether the work is happen or not? Suppose in this adiabatic system, I'm going to take a cup of hot coffee is filled in this one hot coffee. The coffee continuously get evaporate and get condensed. That means evaporation and condensation simultaneously will takes place. So there is a continuous work is going to happen. So because of that work, what will happen? Continuously internal energy of this system is going to change. So change in internal energy, that is indicated by delta U, that is equal to U2 minus U1. That is indicating the work done in the adiabatic process. So in any adiabatic process, if we want to calculate the work done, so the work done in an adiabatic process is equal to change in internal energy, that is equal to final internal energy minus initial internal energy. And in adiabatic process, Q is equal to 0. So remember, Q is equal to 0 is indicating it is an adiabatic process. Always the work done becomes equal to change in internal energy. That is indicated as work done in an adiabatic process is equal to change in internal energy. And in adiabatic systems, when Q is equal to 0, when Q is equal to 0, what is the wall? The wall is called as adiabatic wall. So what is the boundary? The boundary is called as adiabatic boundary and the system is called as adiabatic system. First law of thermodynamics. The first law of thermodynamics states that energy of an isolated system is always constant. Just now we studied if a isolated system is taken. Isolated system means nothing but adiabatic system. So in the adiabatic system, what about the work done? Work done in an adiabatic system or work done in an isolated system is equal to change in internal energy. Whether the energy is going to change? No, that is going to remain constant. So we can say that the energy of any isolated system is going to be constant. Otherwise, the first law of thermodynamics can also be stated as energy can neither be created nor be destroyed. It can be converted from one form to other form. For example, see this one here. Suppose a hot water is there that is going to evaporate to form vapors of water. Again, the vapors of water is going to condense to give water in liquid state. So energy is neither going to be destroyed nor going to be created. It is going to change from one form to other form. That is known as first law of thermodynamics. Otherwise, in other terms, we can say the first law of thermodynamics as the energy of an isolated system always remains constant. And the mathematical form of first law of thermodynamics is delta U is equal to Q plus W. Here Q stands for heat of system, W stands for work done in the system. Coming to the work done formula is equal to pressure external into dV or minus delta V. To understand this one, here I am taking a cylinder. In this cylinder, I am going to take 1 mole of ideal gas and that is fitted with a frictionless piston. And the piston is having some pressure that is taken as external pressure. The inside of the cylinder, 1 mole of ideal gas is there. This is having some internal pressure. If the internal pressure of this gas is lesser than external pressure, means external pressure is going to be more than internal pressure, then this piston is going to move inside. As a result, compression of gas is going to take place. The volume of the gas is going to decrease. Vi is taken as initial volume. Vf is taken as final volume. When it is going to happen? When the external pressure is going to be more than internal pressure, then the piston is freely moving inside. That is causing to compression of gas. Then change in volume is going to take place. Here some work is going to done. Change in volume is going to take place. The change in volume, because of this change in volume, see this one here, this is the final volume. This is the initial volume. Now some work is done. The work done is calculated by taking the area. This is the area indicating work done. That is equal to external pressure into delta V. Otherwise, the work formula is known as force into displacement or distance according to physics. Here force, what is the force? External pressure. Displacement, distance. Here the distance is taken as A into L because we have to move the gas throughout this area as well as throughout this length. So finally the work done formula force into distance, that is equal to pressure external into area into length. Otherwise, we can also write the work done is equal to external pressure into minus delta V. So by taking the minus to the outside, we can write work done is equal to minus external pressure into delta V. Delta V is indicating change in volume of the gas. How can we write the change in volume of the gas? Final volume of the gas minus initial volume of the gas. Final volume of the gas. See this one. This is the initial volume of the gas. Initial volume of the gas is larger, and this is the final volume of the gas. This is smaller. So from a smaller value to a larger value, if we do the subtraction, we'll get a negative value. Negative value multiplied with negative value, we'll get a positive value. So work done in this process is positive. So try to understand, work done in this process is positive, and we are doing work on the system. We are doing the work on the system. So work done on the system is going to be positive. What is the formula of work done here? Minus pressure external into Vf minus Vi. Otherwise, minus pressure external into delta V. First of all, you have to remember the formulas. You have to understand the concept. You have to remember the formulas. Then only you can solve the MCQs. Once again, work done formula is equal to minus pressure external into delta V, or minus pressure external into final volume minus initial volume. Work done in an isothermal process. Isothermal means the process is taken at a constant temperature. So the process which are carried at constant temperatures, they are called as isothermal process. So here on the left side, you are seeing work done in stepwise, work done to initial to final. This is the initial. So on the y-axis, I am taking the volume of the gas. On the x-axis, I am taking the, on the x-axis, I am taking the volume of the gas. Once again, on the x-axis, I am taking the volume of the gas. On the y-axis, I am taking the pressure of the gas. When compression is going to take place, in the previous slide, we observed compression of gas is going to take place. Because of the compression of gas, volume of the gas is going to slowly decrease. See this arrow mark. What the arrow mark is indicating? Decrease of volume. Decrease of volume is indicating it is the work done in an isothermal process, and it is a compression. And here pressure, internal pressure is going to change, but not external pressure. External pressure is going to remain same. So whenever work is done in an isothermal irreversible process, then work done is equal to pressure external into minus delta V, or work done is equal to minus pressure external into Vf minus Vi. So try to understand this graph, pressure versus volume at constant temperature. That graph is called as isothermal, and this process is called as isothermal process. Any process carried at a constant temperature is indicating that isothermal process. And here, whatever the cement colored line, cement colored area, all this cement colored area is indicating this is the amount of work done in an isothermal process. Whether it is reversible or irreversible, the question will arise. There are two types of processes are there, reversible and irreversible. In this case, pressure external is going to be constant. There is no change of pressure external is going to takes place. So this process is indicating that it is irreversible process. Once again, when the pressure external is going to be constant, there is no change in external pressure, then the process is said to be irreversible process. So this graph is indicating that work done in an isothermal irreversible process. This is the area indicating that work done in an isothermal irreversible process. So please write down these points. Please write down these points. Varying pressure indicates the process is reversible. Constant pressure indicates the process is irreversible. And the work done is known as, in this process, the work done is known as work done in a reversible process or irreversible process. Work done in an irreversible process. This is the work done in an irreversible process. And here the temperature is constant. So these graphs are called as, or these graphs are indicating work done in an isothermal irreversible process. So formula once again, work done in an isothermal irreversible process is equal to pressure external into minus delta V. Next one, work done in an reversible process. Work done in a reversible process. In the case of irreversible process, external pressure is constant, but in the case of reversible process, see this one, in the case of reversible process, external pressure is going to change, or external pressure is going to vary. Write down this point. In case of reversible process, pressure external is going to change, or pressure external or external pressure is a variable function, variable property. So the pressure external is taken as internal pressure plus or minus change in pressure. Yes, work done in a reversible process is equal to minus pressure external integral V1 to V2 dV. Otherwise, instead of V1, you can take Vi. Instead of V2, you can take Vf. Vi indicates initial volume, Vf indicates final volume, or V1 indicates initial volume, V2 indicates final volume. So the formula for work done in a reversible process is equal to minus external pressure integral of V1 to V2 dV. Yes, already just now we said that external pressure is going to vary, but the external pressure is equal to internal pressure plus or minus change in pressure. So instead of this external pressure, I'm going to take pressure internal plus or minus dP into dV. So by doing this integration, we'll get the formula as work done in a reversible process is equal to minus internal pressure integral V1 to V2 dV. Why? Because means dP into dV, that value is negligible. So finally we will get the formula as work done in a reversible process is equal to minus pressure internal integral V1 to V2 dV. Except of taking pressure external, why here I am taking internal pressure? Because we are dealing with chemical substances, we are dealing with gas. The gases are containing internal pressure. So the external pressure is converted in terms of internal pressure. Once again, the external pressure is converted in terms of internal pressure. Then the formula is taken as work done in a reversible process is equal to minus internal pressure integral V1 to V2 dV. If you understand this formula, you can easily do the MCQs. Okay, coming to the point. Pressure, which type of gas is taken in the cylinder? Ideal gas is taken in the cylinder. For ideal gases of 1 mole, otherwise for ideal gas of n moles, PV is equal to nRT. For n moles of ideal gas, PV is equal to nRT. This is called as ideal gas equation. From this one, we can write the pressure of gas is equal to nRT by V. So in the place of this pressure of the gas, what we can write? nRT. Then the formula will be work done in a reversible process is equal to, instead of this pressure internal, I can write nRT by V. So the formula is work done in a reversible process is equal to minus nRT integral V1 to V2 1 by V dV. All of you know the integration formula. We'll get a ln modulus of V1 to V2. The ln modulus of V1 to V2 is written as ln V2 by V1. ln modulus of V1 to V2, that is written as ln V2 by V1, right? So the formula is work done in a reversible process is equal to minus nRT ln V2 by V1. Instead of writing ln logarithm base e, that should be converted into logarithm base 10. So work done in a reversible process is equal to minus 2.303 nRT log V2 by V1. Instead of V2 by V1, we can also write a P1 by P2, because pressure and volume are inversely proportional. Once again, the pressure and volume are inversely proportional. So that's why I can write the work done in a reversible process is equal to minus 2.303 nRT. Sorry, work done in a reversible process is equal to minus 2.3 nRT log V2 by V1, or work done in a reversible process is equal to minus 2.303 nRT log P1 by P2. Once again, P1 by P2 can be replaced with V2 by V1 because pressure and volume are inversely proportional. My dear students, there is no need of remembering all these derivations because you are practicing for your CET, NEET and JEE. No need of any derivation. Simply you can remember the formulas. So once again, the formula: work done in a reversible process is equal to minus 2.303 nRT log V2 by V1 or log P1 by P2. Okay. So these two formulas, the previous formula, what is the previous formula? Work done in a irreversible process, isothermal irreversible process. Once again, work done in an isothermal irreversible process, W irreversible is equal to pressure external into minus dV or delta V, whereas work done in a reversible process is equal to work done in a reversible process is equal to minus 2.303 nRT log V2 by V1 or minus 2.303 nRT log P1 by P2. Yes, next, coming to the work done in a free expansion of gas. Free expansion of gas indicating the gas is going to freely expand into vacuum. Then external pressure is going to be zero. When the external pressure is going to be zero, see this formula: work done is equal to minus external pressure into dV or delta V. When the pressure external becomes equal to zero, zero into anything, zero. So what we can say, when expansion of a gas is going to take place into vacuum, that is called as free expansion, then work done is going to be zero, means no work is going to be done during the free expansion of an ideal gas. This is very important point. So very simple, if any ideal gas is going to freely expand into vacuum, that is pressure external is indicating zero, indicating that work done is going to be zero. When the work done is going to be zero, Q is also equal to zero. So that is all about work done in a free expansion into vacuum. Okay, coming to the formula of first law of thermodynamics. All of you know delta U is equal to Q plus W. Once again, delta U is equal to Q plus W, but W is equal to minus external pressure into dV or delta V. Then by substituting the W value in the first law of thermodynamics, we will get delta U is equal to, what is delta U? Change in internal energy is equal to Q minus P external into delta V. Here, delta V, if the delta V is going to be zero, actually not the delta V is going to be zero, if the external pressure is going to be zero, that is free expansion of gas. During the free expansion of gas, the external pressure is going to be zero, this total value becomes equal to zero. Free expansion of gas, external pressure is equal to zero, means this total term becomes equal to zero, work done is equal to zero, then delta U is equal to Q. See this one, delta U is equal to Q. When the delta is U is equal to Q becomes at constant volume. Very simple. If volume is constant, if the volume is constant, change in volume becomes zero. All of you know the mathematics, the differentiation. If for any constant value, not volume, for any constant value, if you take the differential value, that becomes equal to zero. Very simple. So for a constant volume, change in volume becomes equal to zero, then delta U is equal to QV. Change in internal energy of a system becomes equal to heat of a system at constant volume. Once again, change in internal energy of a system, delta U is equal to heat of a system at constant volume. My dear students, without understanding the basic concepts, the definitions and formulas, you can't solve the MCQs. So please go through the concept first. Try to understand the concept and then formulas. Then only you can easily solve the MCQs. Right? So in free expansion of gas into vacuum, what is going to be? External pressure is going to be zero. As a result, work done is also going to be zero. So we can say that work done in free expansion of gas into vacuum is going to be zero. Suppose if a process is going to be carried out at constant volume, V is constant. What about delta V? When the V is constant, delta V is equal to zero. When delta V is equal to zero, this total term becomes equal to zero. Then you can say that delta U is equal to QV. Delta U is equal to QV is nothing but delta U means the change in internal energy that becomes equal to heat of a system at constant volume. Okay. And here the work done is going to be equal to 0 because this is the work done. This is the term indicating the work done. So when the work done is going to be 0, tell me, at constant volume. Once again, at constant volume, the work done is going to be 0 because when the volume is going to be constant, change in volume is going to be 0, work done is going to be 0. So try to understand these concepts, then the MCQs are very easy. Next, isothermal and free expansion of gases. Just now we discussed when any ideal gas is going to be isothermally expanded into vacuum. Isothermal means temperature is constant. And into vacuum, when free expansion is going to take place, external pressure is going to be 0. When the external pressure is going to be 0, work done is going to be 0. Right? So according to Joules, when free expansion of gas is going to take place isothermally into the vacuum, then work done is going to be 0, external pressure is going to be 0, change in internal energy is going to be 0, Q is going to be 0. Coming to the first law of thermodynamics mathematical form once again, delta U, change in internal energy, is the sum of heat and work done in the system. Once again, the change in internal energy of the system is equal to heat and work done of the system, sum of the heat and work done of the system. So for this expression, if we want to calculate the work done in isothermal irreversible expansion, isothermal reversible expansion. So for isothermal irreversible and reversible expansions, in the case of free expansion, delta U is going to be 0. So as a result, by taking delta U is equal to 0 into this first law of thermodynamics, if delta U is equal to 0, 0 is equal to Q plus W, then I can write Q is equal to minus W. So for free expansion of gases, see this one, for isothermal change, for isothermal irreversible change, for isothermal reversible change, see this formula is same, Q is equal to minus W. Here also same, Q is equal to minus W. Why is Q is equal to minus W? Because for free expansion of gas, when delta U is equal to 0, by substituting delta U is equal to 0 here, 0 is equal to Q plus W. Then I can write Q is equal to minus W. So now I'm going to calculate work done in a free expansion in irreversible process and reversible process. For the irreversible process, what is the condition for irreversible process? External pressure is going to be constant. Once again, for the irreversible process, external pressure is going to be constant. Then Q is equal to minus W. That is equal to pressure external into Vf minus Vi. For isothermal reversible process, in the case of reversible process, external pressure is going to change. Then Q is equal to minus W. But instead of pressure external, we have to write the formula as nRT into ln Vf by Vi. Instead of ln logarithm base E, I'm going to write a logarithm base 10. Then I can multiply this term with 2.303. Then I can write Q is equal to 2.303 nRT log Vf by Vi. Final volume of the gas by initial volume of the gas. Otherwise, V2 by V1. Instead of Vf, we can write V2. Instead of Vi, we can write V1. So Q is equal to, for isothermal reversible changes, Q is equal to 2.303 nRT log V2 by V1. Whereas in the case of adiabatic changes, already in the starting of this class, we discussed about adiabatic changes. In the adiabatic changes, heat of a system is going to be 0. No exchange of heat is going to take place. No exchange of mass is going to take place. Work done in an adiabatic process becomes equal to change in internal energy. So by using these three formulas for your JEE and CET, most of the MCQs will come. So try to practice the MCQs. If you are having any doubts, you can call me on my WhatsApp number. We will discuss. Right. For the NEET students, just go through the concepts. Right. So coming to the next term of thermodynamics, enthalpy. Actually, we know about internal energy, change in internal energy. See this term, change in internal energy. What is meant by change in internal energy? What is the change in internal energy? Work done in an adiabatic process. In the adiabatic process, whether the volume is going to change. Yes, you will get it out. I'm going to show you the adiabatic process. Yes, see this one. This is the adiabatic process. In this adiabatic process, there is no change of volume. There is no change of volume, right? So in the case of adiabatic process, work is going to be done at constant volume. Once again, in the case of adiabatic process, work is going to be done at constant volumes. But in the chemistry laboratory, we are carrying the reactions at constant pressure, but not at constant volume. Because in the test tubes, every time the volume of the reaction is going to change. But in the test tubes, every time the pressure of the system is going to constant, because we are carrying all the reactions in the chemistry lab at constant pressure, atmospheric pressure. So that's why another thermodynamic term is needed to know about the heat changes of the reaction. To know about the heat changes of reaction, another thermodynamic term is required, that was enthalpy. Enthalpy is indicating heat changes of reactions. How to know about enthalpy? So first I am taking the first law of thermodynamics mathematical formula. Delta U is equal to Q minus P into delta V. But here Q is taken as at constant pressure. Heat of a system at constant pressure. QP is called as heat of system at a constant pressure. By expanding all these formulas, we will get the formula H is equal to U plus PV. H is equal to U plus PV. H is called as enthalpy. U is called as internal energy. PV is called as work done. So enthalpy of a system is equal to internal energy of a system plus work done. So if it is taken in the differentiating form, then I can write the formula as delta H is equal to delta U plus P delta V, right? So instead of P delta V, you know PV is equal to nRT. According to ideal gas equation, PV is equal to nRT. So from that formula, I can write P into delta V is as delta N in the gaseous state into RT, because I am taking the system in gaseous state. So that's why the delta N should be taken as delta N gas into RT. So remember the formulas, H is equal to U plus PV, or delta H is equal to delta U plus P delta V. Delta H means change in enthalpy. Delta U means change in internal energy. Delta V means change in volume of the system. So P delta V is replaced with delta N in gaseous state into RT. So by using these formulas, you are having MCQs. Please solve the MCQs. Coming to the next topic, extensive and intensive properties. Extensive property means any property whose value depends on the quantity or size of matter. For example, if you take mass, 5 grams, 10 grams, 20 grams, quantity, if the quantity of matter is going to change, the amount of mass is going to change. If the size of matter is going to change, small size, large size, if the size of matter is going to change, if the size of system is going to change, the mass of system is going to change. So mass is a property that is depending upon the quantity of the system or size of the system, depends on the quantity of the system or size of the system. If any property of a system which depends upon the quantity of system or size of the system, that are called as extensive properties. Examples are mass, volume, internal energy, enthalpy, heat capacity. All these are the examples of extensive properties. And some more extensive properties, molar properties are the extensive properties. In the class itself, we discussed already molar properties, molar volume, molar heat capacity. All these are also the extensive properties. Once again, what are extensive properties? The properties of system which depends upon the quantity of system or size of system are called as extensive properties. The quantity, if any property which is not depending, which is independent, which is not dependent or which is independent on the quantity of system or size of system, then such properties are called as intensive properties. TDP, that is temperature, pressure and density. Remember the term TDP, temperature, pressure and density. These are not depending upon the size of the system or quantity of system. For example, to understand this one, see these two diagrams, figure 6.6a and 6.6b. Here we are seeing volume and temperature in one room. Suppose if this room is going to be splitted into two half rooms. Yes, volume of this room is halved. Volume of this room is halved, but the temperature remains the same. Temperature is not going to be halved. So temperature is a property that is not depending upon the size of the system. Once again, the temperature is a property of a system that is not depending upon the size of the system, but volume is a property that is depending upon the size of the system. So you can say that volume is depending upon the size of the system, means volume is extensive property. Temperature is not depending upon the size of the system. Temperature is intensive property. Once again, volume is the dependent on quantity of the system or size of the system. So volume is the extensive property, whereas temperature is independent on the size of the system. So temperature is intensive property. But my dear students, you have to understand volume and temperature are state functions. Just now, 10 minutes back, we discussed volume and temperature. Temperature, pressure, and volume. Temperature, pressure, and volume are the state functions. Even though they are the state functions, volume is being as dependent on size of the system. So volume is the extensive property and it is a state function. Temperature is the intensive property and it is a state function. Try to understand this concept. So once go through the examples given for extensive and intensive properties. Next topic is heat capacity. Heat capacity means if we take any one substance, I want to raise the temperature of a substance by 1 degree. Some amount of heat is required. So that amount of heat required is called as heat capacity. So heat capacity formula, heat of a system is equal to coefficient into change in the temperature of the system. This coefficient is called as heat capacity. So instead of writing coefficient, I'm taking the C. This C is called as heat capacity. What is the formula of C? Q by delta T. Once again, C is equal to Q by delta T. C is nothing but heat capacity. So here I'm writing the formula. Heat capacity of a system. Heat capacity of a system. C is equal to heat of a system by change in the temperature of system. If this change in temperature of system is becoming 1 unit, then the heat of system is called as heat capacity of the system. Once again, if the change in temperature of the system, that is delta T, becomes equal to 1, then the heat of system becomes equal to the heat capacity of the system. If the heat capacity is going to increase, then more amount of heat is required. More amount of heat is required to change the temperature of the system. Once again, to change the temperature of system, more amount of heat is required. When the more amount of heat is required, when the heat capacity of a system is more amount of heat is going to be required to change the temperature of system by 1 degree. Here the paragraph is given. Once go through this paragraph. So once again, what is meant by heat capacity? The amount of heat required to rise the temperature of a system through 1 degree is called as heat capacity, is indicated by C. And we can also define molar heat capacity. What is molar heat capacity? What is molar heat capacity? The amount of heat required. The amount of heat required to rise the temperature of a system by 1 degree of 1 mole of substance. How much substance should be taken here? 1 mole of substance should be taken. But in this case, in the heat capacity, we didn't mention how much amount of system is taken. But to know about the molar heat capacity, to rise the 1 mole substance heat by 1 degree, to rise the temperature of 1 mole of substance by 1 degree, the amount of heat required is called as molar heat capacity. Molar heat capacity is indicated by Qm. Molar heat capacity is indicated by, molar heat capacity is indicated by Cm. Cm. Heat capacity is indicated by C. Heat capacity at constant volume is indicated by Cv. Heat capacity at constant pressure is indicated by Cp. C is indicating heat capacity of the system. Cm is indicating molar heat capacity of the system. Cv is indicating heat capacity of system at constant volume. Cp is indicating heat capacity at constant pressure. Yes, on the screen you are seeing the relationship between Cp and Cv. All of you know this relation. No need of any explanation. Simply go through this formula. Relation between heat capacity at constant pressure and heat capacity at constant volume. What is the relation? Cp minus Cv is equal to R. So in the chemistry, we are using this formula. In physics, one more formula is there. Cp by Cv is equal to gamma. I'm not going in detail here. So just remember this formula, try to understand. Cp minus Cv is equal to R. How it is obtained means, so by using all these equations, all of you know heat of a system at constant volume. What is the heat of system at constant volume? Change in internal energy. And this is the heat of system at constant pressure. Q means heat. Heat of system at constant pressure is called as change in enthalpy. Then according to first law of thermodynamics, delta H is equal to delta U plus P delta V. By substituting these values, finally you will get Cp minus Cv is equal to R. Otherwise, Cp is equal to Cv plus R. Relationship between Cp and Cv. What is meant by Cp? What is meant by Cv? Cp is called as heat capacity at constant pressure. Cv is called as heat capacity at constant volume. And next topics, enthalpy changes. So many enthalpy changes you studied already. That is enthalpy of formation, enthalpy of combustion, enthalpy of sublimation, enthalpy of atomization. So once go through your notebook as well as your material. And Hess law. Hess law, already you studied about this Hess law. You practiced a number of questions for your PU level also. So once go through the material as well as your notes. And enthalpy is for different types of reactions. This is also studied in your notes itself. Once go through that notes. If you want any explanation or if you want to get any clarification, you can call me on WhatsApp number. We'll discuss. And coming to the another topic, that is a spontaneity of a reaction. Spontaneity of a reaction, that is feasibility of a reaction. Thermodynamics mainly deals with the feasibility of a reaction. Thermodynamics is mainly dealing with feasibility of a reaction. What is meant by feasibility of a reaction or possibility of a reaction or spontaneity of a reaction? Feasibility of a reaction. What is the meaning of feasibility or spontaneity of a reaction? Let's see the definition. A spontaneous process is a process that is irreversible process. First of all, it is irreversible process and may only be reversed by some external agency. For example, from the tank in your home, in the tank, here water is there in your tank. From the tap, we can easily remove the water. This is spontaneous. No engine, no machine, nothing is required. Spontaneous process. But here is a well is there. In this well, water is there. To lift up this water into this tank, some external agency is required. So this is the irreversible process. Lifting up of water from well to tank, it is irreversible. But removal of water from tank to well, this is a reversible process. So for any reversible process, no external agency is required. It happens on its own and it is irreversible. That means again this water cannot go itself into the tank. So all the irreversible processes which are occurring on its own, they are called as spontaneous processes. Thermodynamics mainly deals with the spontaneity of a reaction. Yes, how can you know about the spontaneity of a reaction? What are the terms required to explain the spontaneity of a reaction? Thermodynamics, already we studied about two types of terms. I will write here. You studied about delta H value, change in enthalpy. Actually, before delta H value, we studied about delta U, change in internal energy. This change in internal energy is calculated at constant volumes. Change in internal energy is calculated at constant volumes. But most of the reactions are not carried at constant volumes. That's why change in internal energy is not used to know about the heat of reactions. Change in enthalpy. Delta H is called as change in enthalpy. Change in enthalpy. This is the term used to know about the heat of reactions. So in some reactions, delta H is going to be positive value, that is called as endothermic reactions. For some reactions, delta H is going to be negative value, that is called as exothermic reactions. So based on delta H values, can we say about the spontaneity of a reaction? No, it is not possible. For some spontaneous process, delta H is going to be positive. For some spontaneous process, delta H is going to be negative. So based on delta H value, we cannot explain the spontaneity of a reaction. That's why another term was proposed, that is entropy. Entropy. What is meant by entropy means, first of all, entropy is represented by the symbol S. Entropy means the randomness of a system is called as entropy. The disorderness or the randomness of a system is called as entropy. So if you take the change in entropy values, that is delta S, for some processes delta S value is going to be negative, for some processes delta S is going to be positive. Delta S means a change in entropy. When the entropy is going to change, for example, if you take a solid, that is ice, when the ice is converting into water, liquid water, when ice is converting into water, that is solid is converting into liquid. The solids are converting into liquids. When the solid is converting into liquid, what about the randomness of the molecules? The randomness of the molecules increases. When the water is converting into water vapors, what about randomness? When the liquid is converting into gas, randomness increases. So where the randomness is less, solids are having less randomness. Means entropy of solids is less, whereas gases are having more randomness. So entropy of gases is more. So if I want to say the entropy as S, entropy of solids is, randomness of solids is lesser than entropy of liquids, that is randomness of liquids is lesser than entropy of gases, that is randomness. Randomness is nothing but entropy. So SS less than SL less than S gas. Entropy of solids is lesser than, entropy of liquids is lesser than entropy of gases. So suppose if I am going to take one example, solid is converting into liquid. What about the delta S? What is the sign of delta S? What is the notation for delta S? Whether it is positive or negative? Delta S is going to be positive because randomness is going to increase from solids to liquids. Suppose if I am going to write a liquid to gas, again randomness increases, that is change in entropy is going to be positive. Suppose if I am going to write a liquid to solid, randomness is going to decrease, that is delta S is going to be negative. So change in entropy may be positive, may be negative for spontaneous process. So with the help of delta H value, change in enthalpy, and with the help of delta S value, individually we can't explain the spontaneity of a process. That's why another term was proposed, that is Gibbs energy. Gibbs energy, that is represented by the symbol G. Gibbs energy means the amount of energy present in the system to do the useful work. Once again, the amount of energy present in the system to do the useful work is called as Gibbs energy. With the help of change in Gibbs energy, we can know about the spontaneity of a reaction. So there is a mathematical formula, that is a delta G is equal to, there is a relation between delta G and delta H and delta S. Delta G is equal to delta H minus T delta S. Delta G is equal to delta H minus T delta S. Otherwise, we can write delta G naught R is equal to standard change in Gibbs energy of a reaction is equal to delta H naught R, standard change in enthalpy of a reaction, minus T into delta S naught R, that is standard change in entropy of a reaction. So this is the formula. Delta G naught R is equal to delta H naught R minus T into delta S naught R. And there is a relation between delta G and K. If any reaction is carried, for example, suppose if I am going to say some X gives rise to and gives rise by Y. This is a reversible process. For reversible process, what we can calculate? We can calculate equilibrium constants. For a reversible process, we can calculate equilibrium constant. There is a relation between equilibrium constant and standard change in Gibbs energy. The formula is delta G naught is equal to minus 2.303 nRT log K. And in the electrochemistry, you studied about delta G naught is equal to, in the electrochemistry, what is the formula you studied? Minus NF E naught cell. In the electrochemistry chapter, you studied the standard change in Gibbs energy. Delta G naught is called as standard change in Gibbs energy, that is equal to minus NF E naught cell. If this value is going to be positive value, delta G value is going to be positive value, then the reactions are going to be non-spontaneous. If the delta G naught value becomes positive value, the reactions are non-spontaneous. See this table. Already in the classrooms itself, we explained all these things. If delta G naught value is going to be negative value, negative value, negative value, which type of reactions are spontaneous, right? If delta G naught is going to be positive values, see this one, positive value, positive value. If delta G naught is going to be a positive value, the reactions are going to be non-spontaneous. So based on delta G naught value, if the delta G naught is negative, the reactions are going to be spontaneous. If the delta G naught is going to be positive, the reactions are going to be non-spontaneous. So to know about the spontaneity of a reaction, what we are going to use, delta G value, change in Gibbs energy, we are going to use depending upon the conditions. Here you are seeing the table. At all temperatures, if delta H is going to be negative, delta S is going to be positive, delta G is going to be negative, then the reaction is said to be spontaneous. The reaction is said to be spontaneous at all temperatures. Once again, if delta H is going to be negative, delta S is going to be positive, delta G is going to be negative, the reaction is said to be spontaneous at all temperatures. If delta H is going to be negative and delta S is going to be negative, delta G is going to be negative, then the reaction is going to be spontaneous at low temperature. Like that, you can read all this table already in the classes. 2-3 times we explained about this table. Spontaneity is depending upon delta H value, delta S value, as well as temperature of the reaction. So that is all about today's session about thermodynamics in chemistry, that is called as chemical thermodynamics. Please all of you solve the MCQs. But before solving the MCQs, I request you all once again, please first go through the concept in depth. Without understanding the concept in depth, it is not possible to solve the MCQs. First, one more request, please try to watch the video till the end. Then only read the NCERT textbook for the content. After that, practice the MCQs. If you are having any doubts, you can call me on my WhatsApp number. Thank you one and all. Stay home, stay safe. Have a nice day. This is your chemistry lecturer, Siddhar Naidu, signing off.